You may have heard some of the little quotes that I'm going to share with you in just a minute, but they're so sweet and so endearing that it bears repeating them. So a teacher asked her students what love was. And these were some of the answers she got. Rebecca, age 8, tells us, quote, "When my grandmother got arthritis, she couldn't bend over and paint her toenails anymore. So my grandfather does it for her all the time, even when his hands got arthritis too." That's love. Chrissy, age 6, says, quote, "Love is when you go out to eat and give somebody most of your French fries without making them give you any of theirs." Danny, age 7, shares, "Love is when my mommy makes coffee for my daddy. She takes a sip before giving it to him to make sure it tastes okay." Terry, age 4, says, "Love is what makes you smile, even when you're tired." Marianne, also age 4, tells us, "Love is when your puppy licks your face even after you left him home alone all day." And finally, little Nika, age 6, proclaims, "If you want to learn to love better, you should start with a friend you hate." Love. Every human being desires to be loved and appreciated and cherished. For we will quite literally die if we are not loved. Right now, as we go through these challenging times of COVID-19, how are you doing with love? Do you yearn to love and to connect more deeply with others? And yet that's not what's happening? Are you finding it difficult to be the compassionate, open-hearted being that you've always been and you know you are deep down? But you're not right now. Yeah, I know. Many wonderful people right now are getting swept away in the negativity that is pushing down on us. A huge divide is growing and separating people on such a wide variety of issues you wouldn't think it would matter. Greater intensity and stress are pushing people to the absolute edges, away from each other. Perhaps we need to listen to the wisdom that little Nika offers us about loving someone we hate. And maybe that's too strong of a word. How can we love people that we strongly disagree with? Now, before we answer that, it would be helpful for us to understand how each of us reacts when disagreements arise. Some people, when others get nasty and argumentative, fight right back. They raise their voices louder and louder in an attempt to use volume or intimidation to silence the opposing person or group. Others will run as far away as possible from any sign of disagreement. And still others will freeze, terrified of the moment, of what's happening, of what to say, of what to do to make things better again. Fight, flight, or freeze. What is your experience in the midst of a heated argument? What do you do when disagreements happen, voices get louder, and tensions rise? You know what? Angry people, argumentative people, people who yell really loud, they're afraid of something. Just like the one who will turn tail and head out in an argument, or just like the one who freezes with fear. We're all afraid of something. I don't think I have to tell you that there are all sorts of ideas out there right now on what's the best way to deal with the coronavirus. And behind every one of those ideas is a passion to preserve the very things we are afraid of losing. Some people are afraid of losing their lives. Some people are afraid of losing their livelihoods. Some people are afraid of losing their churches, church members, church buildings. Some people are afraid of losing intimacy, of losing the ability to gather together as family and friends and have some fun together. When we catch ourselves arguing with another, it would be quite helpful for us to pause and to listen to the fear behind the words that are being spoken. You know, regardless of how you or I or anyone reacts when voices raise and tensions mount, we need to add compassion in our toolbox of love. We must listen with our hearts as well as our ears. We need to bring empathy into situations when we are disagreeing with others. This can be a wonderful way to truly tune in to what others are saying. Not just what's happening on the surface of the conversation, but to the deeper emotions behind the words. We may discover, if we do this, that we are way more connected than we ever thought. That we are all afraid of the same things. Listening with our hearts can bring greater understanding into our interactions with others, which is only going to make love flow more freely, even between those with whom we disagree. You know, God gave us hearts for love, and He commanded us to use them for such. Love one another as I have loved you. Our hearts are powerful tools for listening and connecting with others. You know, so often when we get into an argument, we're preoccupied in our minds, not our hearts, we're in our minds thinking about what can we say next that's really going to put our opponent down. Or we are afraid. We take all of our fears and we project it onto the other person that we are now afraid of. And we never really hear what's being presented. And we are unable to really love one another. When we consciously choose to use our hearts in the midst of disagreements, we will have a greater access to a much better part of ourselves. A part that is both receptive and willing to listen to the deeper message being expressed by the other. You know, our hearts connect to others on a soul level. This just takes us beyond mere words into the deeper and more loving kinds of communication. As we learn from the little children that we heard from in the beginning of this sermon, we get to learn a little bit about what love looks like. And their definitions, all of them, included that love was part serving, part forgiving, and part sacrificing in order to have pure joy. A joy so that we can smile even when we're tired. Let us listen with our hearts. Let us understand that there's always much more going on in a conversation when folks disagree than what we hear in the words being spoken. Let us choose love, a choice that's going to require serving one another, forgiving one another, and sacrificing for each other. But if we make that choice, it will be a way that we can find hope and comfort and delight. May it be so for you and for me. Amen.